If you're just starting your mold healing journey, one of the first questions that you might have is, how do I know if I'm really sick from mold? That's why in today's episode, I'm breaking down the only 2 tests that you need to know if you are sick from mold. On today's episode, I'll be breaking down why a mold allergy test is not enough testing and often misses mold illness, my favorite at-home mold test for your body, my favorite at-home mold test to test if your home is sick from mold, and what steps to take if one or both of these ends up being positive. If you're ready to simplify your mold healing journey and clarify the exact next steps you need to take without wasting any time or money, then this episode is for you. If you want more answers on mold after you listen to this episode, go to betterbellytherapies.com/mold to catch up with our previous mold series and episodes we've released on this podcast, and subscribe to the podcast on your podcast player so that you get notifications for every email or every episode coming up, because we are having a 2-month plus podcast series starting now, releasing all on mold. Let's dive in. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormones, skin, sleep, and brain concerns. Literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. So when you are starting to consider if you are sick from mold, there are 2 questions that are likely floating around in your head, or that if they're not, you definitely want to be framing these questions in this way. Number 1 is, am I sick from mold? And number 2, is my home sick from mold? And I usually like to say, just for the sake of saving money and efficiency, a lot of times you're just going to start with the number 1 question, am I sick from mold? But before we dive into the test that I recommend the most to answer that question, I also want to address a common misconception that leads people to be confused or think that they possibly are not sick from mold when they really are. And that is mold allergy testing. The most common test that you're going to be recommended if you go to a conventional medicine doctor, your family practice doctor, just a general practice doctor, the most common thing they're going to say is, let's do a mold allergy test on you. This might be a blood test that tests for certain immune markers in your blood, or it might be a skin prick test where it has, usually they'll order a bundle. It might be sensitivity to dust and to mold and to tree pollen, and they'll do it on your skin, and they might test a bunch of things. If you come back negative, meaning that the test has low levels, low reactivity to mold, your doctor will then say you don't have any issues with mold. But unfortunately, this is not the whole truth. What that test was testing for is a specific part of your immune system called IgE, immune response. IgE, immune response, falls under allergies, and allergies are things like, you may or may not be experiencing this elevation, but anaphylaxis, where your throat swells up and maybe sweating or your skin gets clammy. These can be signs of an actual allergic immune response. However, people can get sick from mold, and the more common cases when it comes to being actually mold ill, not mold allergic, is that you are having an issue with reacting to mold's toxins that it releases. And these are called mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are an actual type of poison. We use them in biological warfare, and they affect our bodies in a variety of ways. We call them multi-system, multi-symptom toxins. They can affect you from the top of your head down to the bottom of your toes, your skin, your organs, your brain, your energy levels, your immune system, everything. And so when we're talking about mold illness, we actually want to be considering, are you being exposed to high enough levels of these toxins that is one or the main source of your symptoms that you can be experiencing. It is not effective, unfortunately, to evaluate the symptoms on their own because mold can cause such a variety of symptoms in so many people. And I actually covered that in one of our episodes in our original mold series, which is called 100 Symptoms of Mold Illness. How many do you have? Something like that. If you want to go listen to that episode, go to betterbellytherapies.com/mold. And we actually have the entire mold series 1 episode links in a free document for you. So highly recommend that if you just want to hear more of just the wide variety of symptoms that you could be suffering from. But if you really want to actually test yourself for mold, you want to be doing a different type of test, which is not immune. Now, again, before I share my favorite one, the one that I use with the majority of my clients, I also want to say that there are other types of blood mold tests out there that are not specifically allergic. However, I don't like using them in this way. So I don't like using blood tests for mold. There are a lot of downsides to a lot of blood-related mold tests. And so today's episode is not going to be focusing on debunking or telling you all the reasons I don't use or don't recommend all these other types of blood testing for mold, but it's rather to say which ones I do like and why and what to do when you have that information in front of you on what it's going to look like. So let's jump in. The first question you're trying to answer: am I actually sick from mold? Or is it something else? Because it could be. You could be having the same symptoms, but it's being caused by a parasite or from mercury or from Lyme disease. It could be caused from a variety of things. And so all we're trying to help you determine is accurately understanding if mold is a component of your healing or disease process. So what I like to do is something called an organic acids test. I like to use it from Mosaic Labs. They used to be Great Plains Labs. And it's just a very high quality urine-based test that you can do at home. When you work with a provider who can order it for you, the lab usually is going to come to your house. You're going to collect urine following the instructions that come in the box, seal it, and follow the instructions to send it back in, usually with prepaid packaging. Really, honestly, super simple, nice. You don't have to go to a hospital, wait in line, or pay an extra fee to collect a sample, none of that. And so I love this test that it's at home. I love that it's super simple. Some other really great benefits of the organic acids test is it looks at more than just mold markers. It looks at, do you have something called C. diff? Do you have bacterial overgrowth? Do you have high oxalate levels? Do you have neurotransmitter imbalance? And so you're getting a lot of value for one test that you might be taking for specifically mold. That's your maybe main motivation, but you're getting all this other information that comes with it as well that can, under the right practitioner, also guide them in additional types of therapies, treatments that would be relevant to helping get your health back on board and helping reduce your symptoms, whether or not mold is a part of the process. But here's how the organic acid test works. When you collect urine, they're going to sift through the urine and look for what we call metabolites of mold breakdown, meaning your body's been exposed to mold and it's breaking it down as it detoxes it, and now we can see it in the urine. And if you are being exposed to elevated amounts of mold, then you're going to see the markers be red in the mold and yeast section, which is the first section. I actually have a picture here of exactly what it would look like if you had it elevated. So it should show up, there we go, on the page. So this is an example of a client of mine, age 38. This is the very first section of the mold, of the organic acids test. And you can see a bunch of markers here. And these are all considered yeast and fungal overgrowth markers. The only marker on this page that is not specifically mold is arabinose. In this one, it's number 7. Sometimes they change the markers around, so read it. But it might be your number 7 if you're looking at the same test. And it's arabinose. That one's related to candida overgrowth, and it's not specifically mold. All the other ones are mold. And so for this client, you can actually see her candida's, her arabinose marker is almost red. It's at the very, very top part of the marker. Actually, you guys can't see it. I just noticed. For our people watching on the video, podcast video, which we now have on Spotify and Apple Podcast, there's a video. I'm showing you guys what it looks like. But arabinose is like just under being elevated. I would consider this a positive finding for candida. But more importantly, is there mold? And so she does have the very last marker here on the page. Tricarbolylic is elevated. It's red. And you just need one. You need one. It doesn't have to be all ablaze, all of them elevated. One is enough to make you super sick and to be a really simple positive finding. Now, there are some things to be aware of with the organic acids test, particularly false negatives, where the first page, this section, actually none of the markers look red, or maybe only candida, but none of the mold markers are red, and you still have it. And in next week's episode, I'm going to do a big throwdown of the organic acid test and another common test that people do or talk about doing, called the Mycotox test, which is also a urine-based test, but I do not recommend it when you're just starting your journey on mold and are trying to determine if your body is sick with it or sick from mold or not. And I will get into why on next episode, but I just want this episode to be a really focused, like, here's what to do, and go and do it. Get the organic acids test. And if you need a provider to order it for you, you can join our program, the Better Belly Blueprint, at betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint. When you join in module 2, you can order the lab at near wholesale pricing. We'll order it for you. It'll come to your house or whatever address you prefer it to be sent to. You complete it, send it back in, and we get you your results. And not only that, inside of our program, the Better Belly Blueprint, in modules 5 and 6, we actually help you analyze the lab and then give you the exact protocols you need to do to then heal from whatever you find on your unique lab results. So it's an all-in-one package option, and it's something you can do yourself at your own pace with the knowledge at your fingertips, so you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. And honestly, you've hundreds of people who've gone before you and gotten amazing results with it. So that is one option if you want to go that direction. But that is the test, organic acids test by Great Plains. There are other labs that do organic acids tests. I'm not going to go dive into it, but the reason that I prefer the Mosaic Labs is the number of markers it has, the pricing it has for those number of markers, and honestly, the most important one is its appropriate sensitivity. You just don't want a test and a lot of other that doesn't sense what something that is actually there. And there's been a lot of conversation in the functional medicine provider world, and even people who've done third-party testing where they just try to get in the same urine sample, they send a little bit of urine to 2 or 3 different providers of oats, and they see 3 different results. And what they find that has been the most consistent and honestly just sees the best is Mosaic Labs. So if you already have an organic acid test from another provider, it's possible you could still use it. And I'm actually going to literally come back for next week's episode, and I'm going to show you if you possibly have a false negative, meaning mold that looks negative on the first page, but on other pages of the lab result, that it actually points to mold is actually in your body and simply not coming out in the urine. So if you ever listen to anybody talking about mold tests and anybody ever talks down an organic acids test, the main reason is that because it's urine, you'll only see in the test what your body is able to pee out. Meaning if your detoxification pathways are so clogged up, it's not even being peed out. It could be in your body, but not in the sample, and then it definitely won't show. But there's honestly just a phenomenal workaround to that in the other parts of the lab that will point back that if those markers are elevated, that it's a great way to double check for a false negative. So I think that it's still just a great entry level test to answer. Some other things to know when you order and get an organic acids test is that you are not measuring exposure to mold, you're measuring colonization of mold. So when you have these metabolites in your body, it means you have been exposed to mold long enough. You are the moldy piece of bread. You actually have spores inside you that are now proliferating on their own and creating toxicity inside you. So that's one reason that even when people get out of mold, they might feel better, but not be completely better, because now we need to clean you of mold. But the first step really is getting out of mold. And that leads us to the second test, which is If your organic acid test comes back positive or has a positive within the false negative, meaning other pages of the OAT suggest you have mold even if the first looks low, then what you're going to do is test your home, because the place you're spending the most amount of time, the place you're sleeping, the place that should be restful and a place you recuperate should be your home. So if you are going to a workplace that's moldy, at least you want to come home to a place that's not moldy. And we'll get to the workplace and other episodes. But the first place is always to look at the home. And before I get into what to test for it, I really want to encourage people that no one wants to think that their home is poisoning them. It is very dysregulating. It's not fun. It's on the level of betrayal. We have cultivated homes that are designed to make us feel safe and relaxed, and to realize that something that we've poured our time and energy into being that way is not that way for us, and may actually be the root cause of very unpleasant symptoms that we're going through or that our family members are going through, is not fun. And it's also not a fast process to go through, but it is a requirement. And I've had so many clients who resist this part and say, well, I'm sure I'm sick from mold from a previous place I lived, from my childhood home, from the school I went to growing up, from my grad school I went to. And those might be true, but we have to ensure that the current living arrangements are low mold. And when I say low mold, it's because we're not expecting no mold. That's not possible, but low mold, and especially low mold in the specific types of mold species that are the most toxic. We're going to get into that more in 2 episodes. I think if my math is right, 2 or 3 episodes. I'm going to actually walk you guys through my super simple, fast, easy, and honestly just dang good ERMI analysis test. And that's the second test you do. It's called an ERMI. It's kind of a fancy environmental relative moldiness index. Not natural to say at all. But practically what the test is, it's literally a Swiffer that you get, like a Swiffer that you can clean up dust, and you dust around your home in places you don't typically dust. The tops of picture frames, the top of your TV, the tops of ceiling fans that have just collected dust, because you're looking at historical dust levels and what is inside of that dust, what types of mold spores, and at what levels of elevation. There is a normal level of moldiness that they're going to find in the mold spores, and then there's above average. There's 10x, 100x, and 1000x higher. And so when you do the test, it will evaluate all those on an individual marker level, and it will also give you a global scale of adding it all up and weighing it and giving you a number. Again, I'm going to be teaching you how to do this in a super simple, super fast way in future episodes, but I just want you guys to know that. And you can get that test on your own. There's a great website for it. If you go to betterbellytherapies.com/ERMI, ERMI, it will take you directly to that lab, and you can just go and buy it and get it. Their only difference in price is how quickly it processes it. And so I've only paid a faster processing fee when I've been using an ERMI to evaluate if I want to move into an apartment or home. So when we've been house hunting, otherwise I just use the slowest process possible. It just takes a little bit longer. I eventually get the information and then you can move forward. So once you know if your ERMI comes back positive, which I'm going to teach you guys how to evaluate, so be sure to subscribe to the podcast, come back. If it's positive, your next step is to answer the question, where is the mold? The ERMI will not tell you where the mold is. You're just going to take it from all the main levels of your home. They usually recommend not the basement because it can have a little bit of different stuff going on in it. It's not that the basement should never be remediated, but it can throw numbers off. So just first, second, third, whatever floors you have above the basement, take it from all of those floors and it'll be a general testing. Some people do recommend different ones. I find we're just generally asking ourselves, is there mold? And the ERMI on all main floors of your home, not the basement, is going to answer that question. After that, if it's positive, you then would go through the process of finding a qualified mold inspector. An inspector would come in and actually test individual spots in your home to confirm or deny if this spot is moldy. Is it this window that might have a broken seal and have water behind it? And they'll use other techniques to know where to test. They might look at potential like moisture meters, different types of like UV screens. They can visually assess for signs of hidden mold in the house, which we actually have a whole episode by a mold inspector on the 5 signs of hidden mold inside of our first mold series. So if you go to betterbellytherapies.com/mold, you get that free document, and it has all of our episodes that we've previously released on mold, and you can binge listen to them and get all the information all at once. But that's what a really qualified mold inspector would do. The trick is finding a good one. And I actually cover that in the episode 223, our 3-step mold treatment plan. That's like an hour or an hour and a half episode that I go super in detail on every single step of healing yourself from mold A to Z. So you have a global idea, but I also kind of get detailed and granular on things like how to find a good mold inspector, how to find a good mold remediator, signs of a bad mold inspector, signs of a bad remediator, because that's where people can often get either more sick or significantly delay their healing process, and honestly, unfortunately, lose thousands or tens of thousands of dollars hiring inspectors or remediators who don't do quality jobs, and then they don't get the results. They don't feel better. So there is a way to avoid all of it. Go listen to episode 223 by going to betterbellytherapies.com/mold and getting all of the episodes. It's going to be great. So the ERMI is the first step. And the only case where I'd say this doesn't apply, and I actually was talking with a friend where this was the case recently, is if you can actually see mold. And so I've had clients who were doing a kitchen remodel and they pulled up the floor and it was just black mold all in front of the fridge because the subflooring had gotten wet from a minor leak, just like a small ongoing leak from the tube that was feeding their ice maker. So those could be cases where you're like, oh, mold. Then you want to especially if you're sick, don't do it yourself. Ideally, get out of the house, find a remediation company that will remove the material, and then find a building company that will add the material back in. Or you could possibly do that yourself if you're familiar with how to, sometimes it's rebuilding a window, sometimes it's rebuilding a shower or a floor to a kitchen. It really depends on what's happening. But a lot of times if you're sick, being in that environment is just really hard, and most of us aren't builders. So I highly recommend getting another company to do that. There is a way to help insurance cover it, and I'm actually going to be covering that in about a month, not because it's not a good topic, but because there's so many great topics to hit that we just can't do them all at once. So be sure to subscribe, because I am going to be talking about how to get insurance to cover as much as possible in your mold remediation home healing journey. But really, to fully heal your body from mold, you also have to heal your home. And unfortunately, even if your home doesn't smell musty, look moldy, you can't see mold anywhere, mold is in 90% of our clients' ERMI results, to the point that they need to do something about it. What you do, if you decide to move, if you're a renter, how you handle that all varies. And it's something that I cover in detail inside of our program, the Better Belly Blueprint, on what you can do next and how to help yourself. Honestly, just make the best decisions with your process, depending on you renting, owning, etc. But you just want to start with, is that even a conversation you need to have? Because there are some people who are sick from mold from a previous home, from a previous workplace, and it's not an issue right now. But many people, it is a current issue. So you just want to confirm that before you assume, as assuming could lead to not getting better. And I don't want that for anybody. So I hope this helps. That's it. Honestly, just start with an organic acids test to see if you're sick from mold. A lot of times too, if you are truly sick from mold, other pathogens have settled in because your immune system is lowered. Other food sensitivities have built up. So there is a whole body healing process and more testing you're going to want to do to heal your body from the inside out. But just to answer that nagging question, is it mold? Just need an OAT test. And I would love to help you order it. If that's something you want to work with us to do, go to betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint. You can join. You have immediate access to module 2, and you can order an organic acids test immediately, straight to your door in whatever address you prefer. And that's it. So I think you guys got all the links. I'm checking my notes, made sure I shared everything. That was a blast of an episode. And be sure to come back for next week's episode, where I'm going to literally show you a breakdown of how to interpret a note, just for the mold sections, how to interpret a mycotox, and then when to use which lab. If you don't know what a mycotox is, you're probably going to hear about it at some point, and you'll already know about it from this episode. It's going to help you frame and understand when to buy it, if you should buy it, when it's relevant to you, and honestly, just help you save money and get healthy faster. So that's it for today, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening, you can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of, and you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.